You've tuned into Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Now here's your host, the best-selling author who loves sunsets and traveling around the world, Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen Eckstein.
Hi, and welcome back to this episode of Books, Business, and Beyond. I'm your co-host, Shelley Hitz, and I'm joined today with Kristen Joy. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Hey, Shelley. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am doing so good. And today we are going to talk all about book covers and all kinds of tips and tricks and things that we have learned from our own experience. And so, why don't you just start off, Kristen? You've had a lot of experience of publishing books for others as well as yourself. And what are some of the things that really you think are really important when it comes to this topic?
Well, when it comes to book covers, first of all, my own personal experience, I've been professionally designing book covers, since 2003. So it's been a while. And that means getting paid to do it, by the way. Professional designers are not your brother who knows Photoshop. They're the people who actually use professional programs. I learned in Quark, which was a layout program. Still is, actually. I just don't use it anymore. And then I switched over to Adobe products when Adobe InDesign became popular within 6 months to a year after learning Quark Express. So now I use Adobe products exclusively because they are professional grade. And that's the thing about book covers. When you talk about print specifically, the software really makes it happen. You can do a halfway decent book cover in Photoshop, but Photoshop is a photo editing program, hence the name Photoshop. It is not a layout program. I have seen many people botch their print book covers because they tried it in Photoshop. It's an extremely cumbersome and difficult program to lay out text in. And as we all know, back of the book should probably have text on it, right? So
for print books. And
for print
now,
books.
Kristen, you actually have a degree in graphic design, right? Or some sort of
I have
graphic?
My minor actually was
minor
computer art.
Yes,
yeah. Which included graphic design. And so, yeah, I actually do know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. But really, most of what I learned about book cover design was learned on the fly. I mean, there's nothing like being thrown into the deep end of the pool and say, okay, now learn how to swim. And that's what happened to me. I've actually personally designed all of the book covers for the 21 Ways series. I designed all the book covers for the Author's Quick Guide series. And I also have designed many of our client books myself, just partly because I didn't want to wait around on a designer if it was because I have other designers on my team, but if it's a time-sensitive project and I know I can do it and it's within my capability to do it, I'll do it. I really enjoy design. I'm having a ball now with other types of design like social media graphics and word swags and things like that.
And you designed our podcast graphic.
I did. I designed the podcast graphics and all the graphics for each episode where we feature the guest speaker if we have an interview person. So anyway, enough about how much design experience I have. Here are a couple of things that you really need to know about your book cover. When it comes to print or Kindle, it doesn't matter. You want to print it out at actual size. So I design my Kindle covers at 6 inches by 9 inches at 300 DPI, which is the highest resolution. That's usually print resolution. And that actually is the resolution that Kindle recommends because even though it shows up as a small thumbnail on their website, it's compressed many times before it gets there. So if it's not a high resolution to begin with, it will look very pixelated and fuzzy. And that's not what you want. It also could get squished and you don't want that either. So I do 6 inches by 9 inches in Adobe InDesign. And then what I do is I print it out at that size and I stick it on the wall and I walk across the room approximately 15 feet away. If you can read the title nice and clear from 15 feet away, it's going to work as a thumbnail image. It's the rule of thumb with that actually comes from bookstores. Because you think about when you first walk into a bookstore, you open those doors and where is the closest book to you? Most of the time, it's going to be about 15 feet away, maybe 10 feet. Once in a while, Barnes & Noble, they'll have those books on the sides in the entryway when you first walk in. But if you're looking straight ahead, you're going to see a book cover about 15 feet away. And if you can read the title on that book cover and the design is attractive, then you're going to be drawn to it, most likely if you're drawn to that topic that the title is about. So that is really my rule of thumb for design, is printing it out and sticking it 15 feet away. so that I can see if it's going to work, in a bookstore sale, at the back of the room, if you're selling books at an event, if you have a trade show table set up, or if you have a Kindle book that is in a tiny little thumbnail. What I absolutely hate is when I see website URLs, especially www, or God forbid you include the HTTP nowadays.
HTTP://
www.thebookninja.com. Yeah, please don't do that. Please. It's ridiculous and it's redundant. And worse than that is people who put the copyright symbol and the year and then their name on the book cover. Really? Guys, copyright law states that if it's published, it's copyrighted, even if it's published on a blog. So please don't put copyright symbols on the cover of your book because that just looks tacky. When in doubt, look at the best sellers on New York Times list. Those are usually, not all of them, many self-published books are reaching those lists now too, but those are usually traditionally published, and there is a rule of thumb with traditional publishers. The only exception to that rule of having something funky, in other words, funky would be other than your title, your subtitle, and your name. That's it. That's all the text that should be on the cover. Maybe an endorsement, a praise for a testimonial, something like that. But that really only works with print. Those are typically too small to see in a thumbnail size. So I wouldn't include those on Kindle books, but on print books, definitely.
I love the tip that you gave about printing it out and walking away. I really think that your title needs to be readable in the thumbnail version. And the other thing to consider, when you're coming up with your book title, is it obvious just by looking at the book title what the book is about? I've done several different evaluations for authors lately, and several of them, I was surprised. I looked at their book cover and just read the book title without reading the description or anything else, and I did not know what the book was about. And so, from the book cover, I think you should also be able, if somebody's glancing through book covers, if they're looking through your, through thumbnails on Amazon or in a bookstore, seeing your book from afar, whatever it is, they should get an idea of what your book is about as well. But I love that tip of actually printing it out and walking away.
Yeah, that's become my big secret for how to actually make sure the cover is going to work. And, as far as extraneous stuff on the cover, that also works with the 15 feet away rule. If you can't read that stuff, then don't put it on there. Unless it's a print book again and it's an endorsement, because that is an exception. The only other exception is logos. I do not personally like logos on book covers. I don't think they belong there. However, there are some traditional technical publishers who publish more like it's a textbook. And in that case, they do put logos on it. So that's a time when I would say it's okay. But other than that, I would keep logos, copyright symbols, extraneous text off of your book cover. Focus on what your book is about. Like if your book is a Christmas book and you use colors like, say, yellow and orange, chances are it might throw people off. If you use red and green, they're going to know it's a Christmas book right off the bat. I mean, it's going to be pretty darn obvious. So think about color schemes as well. Like Valentine's Day, you're not necessarily going to use blue and green for Valentine's Day, but pinks and purples and reds, sure, those would be perfect. So, books, romance books, things like that, you just want to make sure your color schemes fit your subject matter. And you can also find photographs and, stock images, patterns, backgrounds, things like that will enhance your book cover image and make it obvious to potential readers what your book is about before they even see the title or before they even click it on Amazon.
Right. And about the colors, even if you don't use a logo, you can use similar colors to your logo if you want to emphasize your branding. I did that with a couple of my books. They have the orange and teal color similar to my website and my logo. And so, it just, there's so many different things you can think about, but I really do recommend that you keep it decluttered as much as possible so that the title and the message of your book really stands out. One of the tips that I recommend is to actually do some brainstorming online. A website that I like to use is called bookcoverarchive.com, and all they have is just a ton of different book covers, and you can just scroll through all these different book covers and it just gives you an idea of the different covers that are out there, different designs, and it might spark some ideas within you. Another place you can look at some book covers is Joel Friedlander has a book cover design awards that he gives out, and he critiques book covers and on his site and everything. So you can go to his site and check out that as well. It's booksbusinessandbeyond.com/book cover awards. And so sometimes you can just even look through the bestsellers or the New York Times bestsellers, like what Kristen was mentioning, and just get an idea. I think the more book covers you see, the more good quality book covers you see, the better your eye is going to start to adjust to what is a good quality book cover and what is not, or good design and what is not. And it really is something that you don't want to skimp on. So
absolutely. And I actually get this question from people a lot is, should you use a template? Like, for example, the Kindle cover creator, when you go to set up a new ebook inside of Amazon Kindle and their upload system called Kindle Direct Publishing, they actually have a cover creator in there. And what that basically is a template. Now, here's the thing about templates. If you don't have a natural designer's eye or artistic eye, you're going to screw up your book cover. And your book cover is your first date with your audience. So you can study all you like with the other covers and play around, but make sure you get feedback from your audience and from your peers before you hit that publish button, because it will forever be tied to you in negative reviews on Amazon. Like, for example, this is my own my own problem. But when I first published a book about how to write a nonfiction book in 3.5 days, I used my logo on the cover as like the background. I made it really big and I thought it looked halfway decent, but I did it just because I wanted to get it up there fast. I was cutting corners. I was not letting my audience look at it first. I published on Amazon, and you know what? Actually, this is even, no, it wasn't that book. It was the Wow Factor, Discover the Secrets to Book Covers That Sell. So yeah, the book about book covers had a really crappy book cover based off my logo. And I actually got some reviews that said, don't judge this book by its cover. It's actually really good talking about book covers, but the author needs to redo the book cover. And I took that to heart and I did redo it. The new one is way better that's up there now. But, keep in mind that I can't get rid of those reviews. They still say the book cover is bad, even though I redid it. And even though I commented on the thing that thank you for your feedback, that was done in a hurry, obviously. I was under a tight deadline. But just, also keep in mind your subject matter. Don't write a book about book covers that has a crappy book cover.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest point, is that the book was about book covers.
Yeah,
but
it was awful.
Yeah, and, I have used templates, and I do use templates at times. But again, like you said, to make the template work, first of all, you want to make sure that you make it original enough, because one of the things that can happen, and I've had this happen with even some of the images I've used. So some stock images I bought and royalty free, I see them on other covers. So it makes it not as original. One of my tips is that, make sure that the images that you use, you have permission to use them. I know some people just search Google and use any image they want. However, you need to have permission to use those images.
Besides the fact that it's kind of illegal,
yes,
you can't get that image high enough resolution to use.
Exactly. There's so many reasons. But, when you are, using images, the more original that you can even get with your images, the better. So I have a fiction author that I'm friends with, Brian Cohen. He's also a podcaster. He actually hired a photographer, and he hired a couple university students from his local area and did a photo shoot for his book cover. And I thought that was such a great idea, because no one will have those same images. His book covers will be completely unique to him. And he didn't have to pay a ton of money because he used people from his local university. But the point is, make your cover as unique as you can with good design if you are using templates, and make sure you have the rights to use the photos that you're using and that they're high quality enough. Exactly what you were saying, Kristen, because I recently saw something where the images looked pixelated, and I was like, that immediately turned me off from that book and that author. So, those are just a few other little tips for your book cover as well. Do you want to share a resource, Kristen, that people might be interested in regarding book covers?
Absolutely. Speaking of templates and stock photos that you can use on them, last week we had Tony Leidig on, and he mentioned that he has many, many years of book cover design experience, probably twice as many as I have. And he actually has a product called Kindle Cover Templates. And with this product, you get also some of his original photography that you can use on your book covers and for anything else that you want. It's royalty free. So you can get to that at booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Kindle Cover Templates.
Yes, and Tony really is the real deal. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and when I see him post his pictures, I'm like, wow, those are really good. And he knows what he's doing. He was also the one that took our picture for the podcast. So thank you, Tony, for that. And so we are winding down this episode and have given you a lot of different things to think about regarding your book cover. And hopefully most of you already have thought through this, have already went through this process. And, if you have independently published or self-published, it's never too late to redo your cover. Right, Kristen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you might not be able to get rid of those negative Amazon reviews, but you can still make it better.
I have updated covers for some of my books, and it's been amazing how it has even helped my sales when I've done that. And so, even if you need to go back and redo and, hire somebody and go through a process of getting a new cover, I hope that these tips have helped you and get you in the mind of thinking of what is required. And in our next podcast, we're going to be hosting Natalie Collins and Lee Collins to talk about productivity hacks and hot marketing tips. You do not want to miss this episode. So join us next time on booksbusinessandbeyond.com.
You've been listening to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Visit your host, international best-selling author Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen, the Book Ninja Eckstein, at booksbusinessandbeyond.com and grab your free gift today. Tune in next time for more ways to diversify your income beyond the book, and don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.